At number 10, Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is a pretty big Hollywood actor, but just because everyone thinks you're rich and successful doesn't necessarily mean that's the truth. The real truth about Nick Cage is that he hit rock bottom after going broke, and he blamed his manager for it all. Between the years of 1996 and 2011, he was worth over $130 million, but as he began to make more money, he started spending more money buying pretty pricey and lavish things. Among the things that he spent his hard-earned cash on included things like luxury cars, 2 islands, a yacht, a jet, several properties around the world, a dinosaur skull, and my personal favorite, a $150,000 pet octopus. The actor had to sell a lot of his stuff, but he blamed his business manager Samuel J. Levin for mismanaging his funds and causing him to go bankrupt, and as a result he filed a $20 million lawsuit in 2009. Levin denied the claims that Nicolas was making and even filed a countersuit saying that he tried to warn the actor about spending habits, but that his advice went unheeded, leading the actor to financial ruin. Sources said that the two settled out of court, but those documents remain classified. All we know is that the drama is over and Nicolas is back to rebuilding his fortune. At number 9, Johnny Depp. For actor Johnny Depp, the last few years haven't been very fun. Between the drama with his ex Amber Heard, the court case against the Sun publication, and his career downfall, it's been a negative time for him, but to add to all of this mess, Johnny also got into a lawsuit against his former managers at the management group back in 2017. Johnny sued his former management team for $25 million for negligence, fraud, and breach of fiduciary duty. Johnny claimed that between 1999 and 2016, the management group took $28 million in contingent fees that he never agreed to. On top of that, the actor also claimed that the group failed to pay his taxes on time, resulting in him having to pay $5.7 million in penalties. The management group fired back in a countersuit claiming that Johnny lived an ultra-lavish lifestyle and that it cost him upwards of $2 million a month, and that they warned him about his spending habits. There was a lot of back and forth in this lawsuit, but it all ended in a settlement of an undisclosed amount. Now, before I carry on with the list, I would like to take a moment to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also consider taking a moment to check out my gaming channel Viper Girl if gameplay content is something that you might be interested in. At number 8, Kelly Clarkson. Singer Kelly Clarkson has been caught in a legal battle with her ex-husband, Brandon Bladstock, over the affairs managed by her former management company, Starstruck Management Group, a company run by her ex-husband's father. Starstruck Management was actually the first to file a lawsuit against Kelly, claiming that Kelly owed the company $1.4 million in unpaid management fees. After being accused of not paying her fees, Kelly hit back with a countersuit, claiming that she never had an official contract with the management group. On top of that, Kelly claimed that neither her ex-Brandon nor his father Narvel were licensed to operate as her manager. And if you thought that just ended there, you are mistaken, because on top of the claims that Kelly had already made about her ex and his company, Kelly also went on to file another lawsuit in return for, quote, having defrauded her out of millions of earnings. In this suit, she claimed that Brandon was charging her large fees for 13 years and was charging her for his unlicensed management services. As far as I know, this legal battle is still ongoing, so who knows what else might come out.
And at number 7, Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian was sued by 7 former staff members in May of this year. The employees claimed that they were not paid enough or given breaks while employed at her California home. The lawsuit claimed that the staff never received pay stubs and weren't paid on a regular basis. They also were not given any breaks for meals or rest, and they weren't paid for all the hours they worked, along with other issues regarding compensation. But Kim claimed this was not true and that she was not responsible for paying these employees. Apparently they worked for another company and were paid through this third party. Kim's spokesperson said, quote, Kim is not party to the agreement made between the vendor and their workers. Therefore, she is not responsible for how the vendor manages their business.
At number 6, Marilyn Manson. This year, a lot of dark information came out about singer Marilyn Manson. Multiple women came forward recounting their awful experiences with Manson, saying that the singer had harmed them severely. Some celebrities were part of the group of people who spoke out against the singer, but on top of that, one of Marilyn's assistants has also spoken out against the singer and even filed a lawsuit against him for having endured so much while working for him. The singer's assistant claimed that he had tried to kiss her, touch her inappropriately, and even made her work 48 hours straight. It was also claimed that Manson lured his assistant into working for him with promises of, quote, artistic collaborations and creative opportunities, end quote. The assistant said that she lived in constant fear of one of his violent outbursts, and she said that she felt used, comparing herself to a piece of meat. To think that any of this happened to the people affected by Manson's actions is absolutely heartbreaking, and justice needs to be served.
Halfway number 5, Sharon Stone. Stone was sued by her former nanny after that nanny accused her of violating labor laws. The nanny also claimed that Stone made derogatory comments about her ethnicity. The nanny is of Filipino heritage and claims she was, quote, repeatedly subjected to numerous derogatory comments and slurs by Stone related to her Filipino ethnicity and heritage, mainly during her last 6 months of employment. These comments were allegedly relating to the nanny's accent. Apparently, the nanny was told not to speak so Stone's kids would not develop an accent like hers. Stone denied the claims and said it was, quote, an absurd lawsuit with made-up and fabricated claims filed by a disgruntled ex-employee who's obviously looking to get money any way she can. But only 1 year after this suit, Stone was sued by another employee, her then maid Angelica Castillo, for, quote, wrongful termination.
At number 4, Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is one of the most famous singers out there, so you know that she makes a lot of money, but even with all of her riches, apparently she wanted to keep a lot of it for herself and not pay her staff. Back in 2011, Gaga was sued by a former assistant who claimed that the singer had cheated her out of her overtime wages when she worked alongside the singer for 13 months from 2009 to February 2010. According to the assistant, they were supposed to earn a flat rate of $50,000 annually in the first year, and in the second year of working for the singer, that rate was bumped up to $75,000. It's still a good paycheck, but the assistant claimed that she never got her bonus overtime pay despite the fact that she had to work and be on call 24/7. Though the case was supposed to go to trial in 2013, they ended up coming to a settlement agreement before they ever entered the courtroom.
At number 3, Billy Joel. Back in 1989, singer Billy Joel filed a lawsuit against his former manager Frank Weber. In this suit, he accused his former manager of, quote, fraud, breach of contract, breach of fiduciary duty, and federal racketeering statute violations. There was a lot of money being demanded in this suit, and Billy was serious about the damages that Frank had allegedly caused the singer. In his lawsuit, Billy asked for $30 million in compensatory damages, $60 million in punitive damages, and he also sought out the repayment of $15 to $20 million in commissions that his former manager received between 1980 and 1989. In return, Billy's former manager filed a $30 million countersuit, but the court dismissed his lawsuit. In the end, the court awarded Billy $2 million in partial judgment against his former manager. I think the court saw how much money was being demanded, and since it was such a ridiculous amount, they probably didn't want to take any of this seriously, but honestly, who knows.
At number 2, Emily Blunt. Another star who is reportedly considering taking legal action against Disney is Emily Blunt. Emily's film Jungle Cruise was recently released, and just like Emma Stone and Scarlett Johansson, her film was released in theaters and on the Disney Plus platform at the same time, causing the same problem that the other two actresses are currently facing. The problem that a lot of people have pointed out with the film being released in both theaters and on Disney Plus is that those who choose to watch it from home on the streaming platform are able to pay a premiere access fee and then watch it as many times as they want, whereas in theaters you just pay for your ticket and you only get to see it once. The potential to make more money is there, but Disney hasn't taken it, which is why Emily Blunt is watching her movie's sales more closely with this release, waiting to make her decision on whether or not she will be suing Disney. Emily has already gone through something similar, as she and her husband John Krasinski had already gotten into a debate with Paramount Plus over the release of their film A Quiet Place 2. It is said that because of the pushback that came with the release of their film due to the pandemic, Emily is very much against this hybrid style of film release, and so we shouldn't really be surprised to see a lawsuit come from Emily as well. She and John were already able to push for a 45-day gap between the theatrical release of A Quiet Place 2 and the Paramount Plus release, so who knows what Emily might fight for this time with Disney. And finally, at number 1, Scarlett Johansson. Now finally, let's talk about Scarlett Johansson and the drama that started all of this in the first place. Following the release of Black Widow both in theaters and on Disney Plus, Scarlett and her legal team issued a lawsuit against Disney alleging that they breached her contract because they went through with doing a hybrid release of the newest Marvel film. In her lawsuit, the actress alleged that Disney guaranteed an exclusive theatrical release of the film, saying that her salary was to be largely based on box office earnings. In response to the lawsuit, a spokesperson for Disney released a statement saying that the actress's lawsuit had no merit and called the legal action being brought forward, quote, especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, end quote. They also went on to say, quote, Disney has fully complied with Ms. Johansson's contract, and furthermore, the release of Black Widow on Disney Plus with premiere access, and has significantly enhanced her ability to earn additional compensation on top of the $20 million she has received to date. At the end of the day, it's not really about the money, but it's the fact that they breached Scarlett's contract. They promised an exclusive theatrical release and then went back on that, and I feel as though this lawsuit is just to turn this action into a lesson for Hollywood. When the film was released on July 9th, it brought in $80 million at the box office and $60 million on Disney+, but even though that's a lot of money, it's still the lowest grossing Marvel film to date. It could be because of the pandemic, or maybe the hybrid release affected the film's earnings, but I'm sure that at the end of this, the real analytics will be brought forward as Scarlett takes on this huge company in the lawsuit of the year.
At number 4, Rihanna. Rihanna has landed herself on a few Forbes lists, making her one of the wealthiest female musicians in the world, but there was a time that she was effectively bankrupt, and this was the cause of her 2014 lawsuit against her former accountant. The singer sued her accountant for $25 million after he allegedly advised her to make a number of bad financial decisions that left her with very little money at the end of it. In her lawsuit, she claimed that in 2009 she essentially went bankrupt, explaining that at the beginning of the year she had $11 million in cash, and by the end of the year she was left with only $2 million. She blamed her accountant for this because the singer claimed that her accountant, Peter Gornis of Burden LLP, told her to buy a Beverly Hills mansion that cost over $7 million, but in reality, this was a purchase that she couldn't actually afford. To make things even worse for the singer, the mansion that she bought turned out to have a mold and water issue, making this house a very poor investment. Though she sued for $35 million, Rihanna ended up settling in court for $10 million instead.
And at number 3, Celine Dion. In 2012, Celine and her late husband were sued by their former handyman, Keith Sturtevant, for unpaid wages. This handyman worked at their Florida compound and performed duties like cleaning shutters, repairing appliances, and running errands. The lawsuit goes on to allege that Dion improperly and illegally designed Sturtevant as an exempt employee, which allowed them to avoid paying him overtime, which he is rightfully owed. Because of this, he is suing for unpaid back wages that he was entitled to during employment. At the time, he said others were also not paid what they were owed, so it wasn't clear if other people might be joining him in the suit. The suit was later settled for an undisclosed amount.
At number 2, Billy Unger. Most of the celebrities I've mentioned so far have sued their managers or management groups, but here's a case of a celebrity suing a member of their own family. Former Disney Channel star Billy Unger, known for his role on the Disney show Lab Rats, actually sued his own father for a number of things, including breach of contract, fraud, and negligent representation. Billy's father, William, was not only his talent manager, but also his business and financial advisor, and according to Billy's court filings, he accused his father of, quote, improperly and illegally mismanaging his income for his own personal benefits. Billy said that his father was not up to the task of managing Billy's affairs, as he said in his court documents that his father, quote, utterly and completely lacks the skill, knowledge, and experience to act either as an entertainment talent manager or business manager, end quote. In court, Billy claimed to have spent over $6,000 on his father's girlfriend's rent, and that his father used over $1,200 to take out a $1 million life insurance policy on Billy, and only listed himself as Billy's beneficiary. According to the actor, his father took 33% of commissions from Billy, purposely knowing that this rate was much higher than the industry standard. Apparently, William spent over $120,000 of his son's money just to impress a girl. And finally, at number 1, Misha Barton. In another case of a celebrity suing their parents, actress Misha Barton sued her mother in excess of $25 million for allegedly scheming to defraud her daughter. According to documents from the suit, Misha had entered into a verbal agreement with her mother when she was just 8 years old, agreeing to have her mother as her manager and agreed to pay her 10% in fees, but Misha alleged that her mother, quote, went wild with the money. According to the lawsuit, Misha's mother, quote, created various companies to control her daughter's wealth. It was also alleged that Misha's mother entered her into endorsement deals without her prior knowledge, and even forged her daughter's signature so that she would appear in the movie Hoarders, lied about how much Misha would get from the movie, and then kept the difference from her daughter's salary for herself. To make things worse, Misha's parents had been living in an $8 million mansion that they bought with their daughter's money, and Misha wasn't even allowed on the property. That is super shady.
At number 10, Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey isn't the nicest person ever. We already know this. She's had run-ins with the paparazzi, which have not gone over well. She's had some bad relationships with others. She's known for being something of a diva. The theme here is that Mariah doesn't really treat people with the respect that they deserve, and this is probably why she's been sued for this kind of thing before. There was a lawsuit from one of Mariah's former assistants that claimed that the singer peed on her, ridiculed her body, and called her some pretty pretty rude names. Her former assistant said that she was hired by the singer to be on call 24/7 and assisted both Mariah and her manager. Though she was paid a salary of $250,000 a year, this wage couldn't cover up the torment that she sustained from Mariah. But her case wasn't the only one up against the singer at the time. While this case was being disputed, Mariah had just settled one with her former manager, which cited breach of contract, harassment, and unpaid wages. It seems like though she pays her people well, she doesn't treat them as well as she should. Many other employees have had similar horror stories, which just shows that maybe working for the Queen of Christmas isn't as holly jolly as you might think.
And at number 9, Christian Bale. Christian Bale is definitely the person I would want to work for the least, because he uses intimidation and threats of physical harm towards his assistants. One of his former assistants had such a bad experience working for the star, he actually wrote a whole book exposing him. The book's called Christian Bale: The Inside Story of the Darkest Batman. It was an inside look into the negative experiences the assistant witnessed while working for him. Apparently one time fans approached Bale for an autograph, but they ended up running away crying because of how mean he was. Another time Bale got fan mail sent to his home, and Bale told the assistant that the fan should be quote eliminated, adding quote, "A screwdriver thrust through the eyeball into the brain prevents any screaming. Let me know how it goes." Things were so bad the assistant was diagnosed with PTSD afterwards.
At number 8, Naomi Campbell. Supermodel Naomi Campbell has been in the fashion industry for over 30 years. Over this time, she's had her fair share of scandals and feuds which have painted Naomi as the industry's mean girl. She's known for having had violent outbursts, and Naomi has been accused of being violent on 11 occasions and has been convicted of harming others 4 times. Some of the reported violent incidents include the model physically harming her assistant, grabbing her by the throat and beating her with a phone, harming another assistant and allegedly holding her hostage, throwing her phone at a housekeeper, and other accounts of emotional and physical distress. Out of these incidents, the model has been sued on multiple occasions, and they all mostly just settled out of court, but she was required to take an anger management class on top of all of her payouts. There's been some things that have been covered up, but luckily these days Naomi doesn't seem to be harming others like she used to and has moved on from this dark time.
At number 7, Shannon Doherty. Everyone wants to feel like they're protected in case something goes wrong. That's why people take out insurance policies, and that's why health insurance is so important to so many people. So it would be terrible to find out that you had no coverage when something terrible has happened. This is what happened to Shannon Doherty after she found out that she had breast cancer. Back in 2015, the actress filed a lawsuit against her business manager Tanner Mainstein Glenn and Johnson for quote, failing to properly secure her health insurance. According to court documents, when Shannon got breast cancer, the cancer ended up spreading because she wasn't able to seek proper medical attention due to the fact that she had no health coverage. Shannon claimed that her business manager was supposed to pay her insurance premium to the Screen Actors Guild, but he failed to follow through with that, and then terminated their working agreement in 2014. In the following year, when she re-enrolled, she found out about her cancer and how invasive it was. It was then that she learned that had she seen a doctor sooner, the cancer could have been stopped. As a result of the legal battle, the actress and her former business manager reached a settlement in 2016 for an undisclosed amount. At number 6, Elton John. Back in the early 2000s, Elton John filed a lawsuit against his former manager, Andrew Hayden, and the accounting firm PricewaterhouseCoopers. Elton sued his manager for negligence, claiming that Hayden was negligent in handling Elton's affairs, and that Hayden allowed Elton's accountants to, quote, unfairly charge the singer for overseas tour expenses that should have been covered by the firm. When he took the case to court, he unfortunately lost the legal battle with the judge, saying that Elton's case, quote, fails on the facts, end quote. At number 5, Alanis Morissette. Back in 2017, singer Alanis Morissette filed a lawsuit against her former business manager. The singer sued for breach of fiduciary duty, conversion, fraud, and negligence after she claimed that her business manager swindled her out of $4.7 million. At the time of this alleged swindling, between 2009 and 2016, Alanis' finances were managed by Jonathan Schwartz and the GSO Business Management, and they were charged with the responsibility of collecting the singer's income, managing her investments, and paying her bills. She had no idea about the money that she was allegedly losing until she hired a new business manager. This new manager, Howard Grossman, is the one that discovered that there were 116 transfers from Alanis' accounts over to Jonathan Schwartz's over a 4-year period that totaled nearly $5 million. After taking her former business manager to court, they eventually settled, but the details of the settlement are not available to the the public.
At number 4, Peggy Lee. Before I get into the current drama that's going on now with Disney, I'd first like to tell you about one actress who first sued Disney because of their contract. It seems as though Disney is already familiar with their stars suing because of their contract, because back in 1987, actress Peggy Lee was blindsided by the media company's release of the film Lady and the Tramp, and a lawsuit ensued. Peggy was one of the people behind the making of the 1955 film. Peggy voiced the character Peg, as well as the Siamese cats Cy and Am. Very creative. On top of that, Peggy also sang and co-wrote a handful of songs in the film, like He's a Tramp and Bella Notte. Peggy also contributed to the storyline of the film, making an effort to keep the film family-friendly and to avoid anything too triggering for younger audiences. Needless to say, Peggy contributed a lot to the film, and for all of her hard work, she was paid $4,500. Lady and the Tramp went on to become Disney's best-selling film, dethroning the other Disney classic Snow White, which had held the title for so many years, and because it was such a success in its heyday, Disney decided to do a wide release of the film on VHS in the late 80s, and this brought the company $90 million in profit. Now, this was great news for Disney because they had made so much money, but it was bad news for Peggy because she didn't get any of that. Apparently, Disney was reluctant to share their profits with Peggy, and they only offered her a small fee, so she took matters to court. After taking a look at Peggy's contract, it was found that Disney technically did not have the right to sell copies of Peggy's work, and therefore they were in violation of their contractual agreement with the actress. After a 2-week court battle, it was determined that Peggy deserved a bigger cut from the VHS sales, and so she was awarded $2.3 million. This case is pretty similar to what's going on between Scarlett Johansson and Disney, so it will be interesting to see how things play out here, and maybe history will repeat itself and Disney will have to shell out a hefty amount of money. Now, before I go any further with the list, I would like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and also consider taking some time to check out my gaming channel Viper Girl if Minecraft gameplay is something that might interest you. I upload new videos every single day, so come check out what we've got going on over there and subscribe. At number 3, Emma Stone. Now, although this has yet to be confirmed, sources say that actress Emma Stone could be the next one to seek legal action against Disney. Emma was under contract for Disney after starring in the movie Cruella, which was released in May of this year. This film's release is really what's causing the problem with Emma, because much like Scarlett Johansson and the Black Widow movie, the theatrical release and premiere access on Disney Plus were on the same day, meaning that audiences were able to choose between going to the theater to watch the movie or stay at home and stream it from the company's platform. As part of her contract, Emma was given royalties from the film's theatrical release, which means that she wasn't given a portion of the money from the streaming platform and therefore was cheated out of a pretty good sum of money. Now, after seeing Scarlett take on Disney in court, there are reports that Emma might be inclined to join in on that lawsuit to fight for wages lost due to this loophole in the contract. Do you guys think that Emma should join in on the fight? Some people have said that she made enough money and doesn't need to fight for more, but others say that it's less about the money and more so about the principle to show that these companies can't do these kinds of things to their contractors. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. At number 2, Courtney Love. In 2012, Courtney Love got into some serious drama with one of her former assistants, and it got pretty ugly. Courtney's former assistant filed a lawsuit against the singer seeking wages, expenses, and punitive damages for, quote, wrongful firing, wage and overtime violations, false promise, breach of contract, negligent and intentional misrepresentation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The assistant had nothing but negative reviews for having worked for Courtney, and she was prepared to tell the whole world about it as she was planning to publish an expose about her time with Courtney. In a copy of the book Proposal, this expose promised all kinds of inside knowledge about the celebrity, including details about how she is a, quote, alleged hoarder, media manipulator, and drug user, unquote. Nothing ever came of this book, I don't think, and I'm not quite sure what happened with the rest of the case, but I for one would have loved to know what this assistant had to say, because I have a feeling it would have been very juicy.
And finally, at number 1, Charlie Sheen. Back in 2015, Charlie Sheen was sued for $1 million by a former staff member named Keith Fitzgerald. When Fitzgerald was originally hired in 2013, he was offered a 3-year contract with a salary of $300,000, medical benefits, and 20% incentive bonus as well. He was supposed to work for 3 years but was fired after only 5 months. Because of this inconsistency, the staff member sued for premature termination. Allegedly, Sheen didn't pay for any of his work either. The lawsuit said in part, quote, Fitzgerald's employment relationship was prematurely terminated after approximately 5 months without any explanation. Fitzgerald received no compensation whatsoever for any of the services he performed for Charlie Sheen at any time whatsoever. Sheen denied the claims and called the whole thing bogus, but the suit was later settled for an undisclosed amount.